Good morning across Australia and welcome to a bit of a class about acquiring customers and some of the various ways you can do that in conjunction with a group called startups.com that I do a lot of consulting and content development for. My name is Dante St. James. I'm going to share my screen and get us underway so we can learn a bit more about the process and the different ways you can look at acquiring customers in a very, a broad overview. We're not going to get down the nitty-gritty and say, do this with your Facebook pixel or do that with your Google ads. It's more of a case of looking at where those different customers can be sourced from. I'll share that screen and we'll get it underway as soon as we can. A beautiful, beautiful day in Darwin today. I don't know if you're in t-shirts and shorts where you are. Likely not. I guess it's not 32 degrees everywhere in Australia right now. A quote first from Warren Buffett: "It's not necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results." And Warren's been very much known for not going for the sexy thing, the sparkly object first to make his fortune. He went for the very boring stuff, often the very predictable, and just continually compounded that process until he got some success. And quite often the growth of business is very much the same. It's sometimes avoiding those sparkly objects and going, well, I could, do a thing with TikTok right now, but maybe I just need to get my Facebook and Instagram right first. Or I could start doing Instagram Reels, but maybe I really need to do some work on my website first. Or even go as far as, really defining where your customer is and where you can find new lots of those. This is for people who are wanting to start a business. So if you're still in that that startup phase where you haven't quite done it yet, this is for you. It's also for those of you who have a business right now and want it to grow. And before we get further underway, this is live on Zoom right now. So if you want to ask a question along the way, please use the chat or the Q&A function here on Zoom, and you can do that. But if you are on YouTube watching this after the fact, just pop your questions in the comments below and we'll come back to those as soon as we can. By the way, if you are on YouTube too, pop a subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can get notified when myself or Business Station put some new stuff on there as well. And if you are on Zoom and don't know what I'm talking about, you can go and see this in about 2-3 hours time. It will be available at my own channel on YouTube, which is just my name, Dante St. James, or through Business Station as well. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program. You can tell I've said that a few times, and Regional Development Australia, Brisbane in Queensland, as well as Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory, where I happen to be. If you haven't met me before, there's a few new names I'm seeing in this. Quite a few people we've got in the webinar today. My background is in marketing through the University of New South Wales, Sydney, where I did marketing and business information systems, both the bachelor and masters. That's all well and fine and good, but that didn't teach me anything to do with digital marketing. I had to go to the Chartered Institute of Marketing to get my education in that and continue to do more things through TAFE New South Wales and also through Charles Darwin University. I haven't added on there as well. I do a lot of work with Facebook Australia and New Zealand as a lead trainer for their Blueprint certified courses. I help to put those courses together for them and also go around Australia training people. They also refer me as a digital marketing associate and media planner and buyer for a lot of their bigger clients as well. With Google's Digital Springboard program, it's bringing a lot of stuff to those who are needing a bit more digital literacy to participate in the digital economy, and through ASBAS, the New Business Assistance with NICE and Be Connected government programs. We can kind of connect things through to people who otherwise wouldn't get access to them because, let's face it, not everyone knows everything about the digital world. And then finally, I do a lot of work with startups.com, which I've used with permission a lot of their materials in getting those startups to find where their initial customer base will be or how to then scale that customer base up from a very low base. So there's 4 very distinct phases of what we call customer acquisition. There's the very, very beginning of it, and this is for any kind of business, even retail businesses, but very specifically service-based businesses as well. This is built around a lot of people who have developed apps or developed new services, right down to people like Uber and a lot of those sort of very disruptive industry breakers that have had to convince people of a new way of doing things and then scale up later. So the first stage is all about how you build an audience to begin with. And that's for some of us, that seems to be this impossible hurdle to get over. Using things like newsletters with which to then encourage people to keep using your product, using social media, which is really the great amplifier, I suppose, and then using what we call paid acquisition, which is all about paid social media, paid Google, and other methods of paid advertising. Now, when it comes down to any sort of business growth or any sort of advertising or any sort of trying to grow yourself into a bigger business or a more effective business than you are now, there's no one single magic formula. Kerwin Rae can travel all over this countryside and say whatever he wants, but his formula is not the one formula that's going to get you there. My formula is not the one formula that will get you there. There is a formula to it, and this is repeated again and again and again from small businesses and startups that want to get from that initial place of where they are to where they need to be. But it's going to take a little bit of patience. It's going to take a lot of consistency. You've got to keep doing it day after day. And to do that, you need to be very systematic. You can't just do one thing, set and forget, run away, and it just doesn't work that way. In the same way, your business doesn't work that way. Your books, your reconciliations, your processes, your procedures don't just set themselves. You have to very consciously work on those things to make them work. And the same thing goes for the growth of your customer base. You have to be very consistent with it, and you have to be patient with it. It doesn't happen like the Pantene ads. It won't happen overnight, but it can happen. And for 99% of us, it's going to happen over the time. When you see those ads for all the gurus on Facebook who reckon they can make you 6 figures in 30 days, it's just like network marketing, for instance. Of the 1,000 people that may join up for that scheme or follow that guru, one of those people is going to have that success. Their hit rate is so low, but they then use that one person as their testimonial. If you go deeper on the internet and look at what the results have been for others who've used it, by and large, those get rich quick schemes or grow your business super fast schemes, they fail, because that's not what business is. If you're coming into an industry or you're doing something completely brand new that no one else has done before, you're being a disruptor and you're trying to change people's purchasing habits. Someone who is, say, for instance, would normally go to a church to get married, and you may be a celebrant, then they would go, well, you're changing someone's behavior from going where they normally would naturally veer towards to then veer towards you. Or for instance, if you happen to be someone who is making gifts, and those kind of gifts are the things that they have to go to a very different place. They might go to the local Westfield shopping town to get their gifts usually, but you're now trying to change their behavior to come to your website or to your Facebook page where they can be introduced to different kinds of gifts. That takes time. It is a massive, massive thing. So, Benjamin's just saying now, difficult acquiring customers as a disruptor. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Just ask, Uber, how many billions of dollars they had to spend in marketing to become what they've become. And even now, they just ran the last quarter it was, the first quarter of this year, the first profit they've ever made. And how long has Uber been around? Like 10 years or something? So it does take a lot. And as a disruptor in your particular industry or a particular niche, it's going to take you a while to get that momentum, like spinning tires in mud, and eventually you have to chop down something that they can sort of get a hold of and get some traction and lift themselves out of the mud. That's almost what we do as well. Now, I don't speak at this from a theoretical point of view at all. I've had to do this in my own business. I've got 2 e-commerce businesses that took me 2 years of each of them before I actually started to get any momentum with it. And now I have to keep sort of putting logs on that fire to keep that thing going again. And in the case of my digital marketing agency, that took me 4 years to get it to the point where it's now not running itself, that has enough momentum that it now has a really successful sales funnel that brings people in, but it didn't at first. It had to start off very much being what we call bootstrapped. And I'll have a bit more information about what that means. So this audience building formula is unfortunately going to start from a very, very familiar place, which is where you start with friends and associates who will listen, who will listen to you. And then you have to repeat that message again and again and again. And the unfortunate effect of that is it feels like the same as something like network marketing, or it could be someone very much with with a new product who has said, yep, I'm going to do this particular thing, and it's very, very different than what anyone else has done. Will you at least let me listen to explain what it is? So this particular stage of it is frighteningly familiar, but frighteningly terrifying as well, because let's face it, not all of us are particularly charismatic. Not all of us are great talkers when it comes to these things. Not all of us are people who can stand on a stage and shout their message from the mountaintops and be heard by an audience of thousands. That comes with time. It also comes with a personality type. That said, though, it says friends who will listen, not strangers. You're not trying to yell to strangers in the streets saying, excuse me, come and buy my stuff. You're saying, I'm starting with people who already have some rapport with myself. Then the next steps are focusing on getting people to amplify your message. So you'll get people who will believe in what you do. Friends, family, associates, workmates, they'll believe in what you're doing. And those people are going to be the people who do your first scale up. They help you to get your message out to a much broader audience. But you will learn the value of patience. It's not going to happen quickly. You're going to have to learn that value of patience and understand that there's so much more you need to look at than just simply setting a system in place and letting it run itself. You're going to have to do stuff on Facebook, LinkedIn. You're going to have to do stuff within Google, do some SEO on a website, get some business cards, even those very basic things before you're going to get anywhere with all this. So let's start first of all with the people you already know, that first core of the circle. So if you think of your sphere of influence being 3 concentric circles. So at the very core of it, you start with your friends and family, the very closest people to you. The next layer out is the people that they know that you don't necessarily know. So they know a certain group of people. If you can get your core to then share your message or somehow mention things in passing to that next level out, that next level out is a pretty good place. Now, your friends and family probably won't be your customers, but they'll be your advocates. So then it goes out to that second level out where those advocates are reaching to where their potential customers are. But where things get really interesting and where we get to a very big sense of growth is that second level out from there. So the first level out, yep, they're the people who know the people you know, but these are the people who know the people that the people, I'm going to an inception level here. They're the people who know the people that know you. So that's when you go, I don't know these people at all. How do I reach them? And it usually starts with the people who are immediately around you. The next stage is then having a message of repetition. Now, this message of repetition is, it's often been called things like elevator pitches. So for instance, I can say that my elevator pitch as a digital marketing agency is, you know how people find it really hard to use all these digital tools to promote their businesses? My business addresses that by making the approach for it very, very simple. You either do it, we do it for you, we help you do it by sitting beside you, or we give you the tools to do it yourself. And our ideal customer is a small business that's looking to grow, a small business that's already established, but is ready to grow to the next level. So that's that kind of message that it doesn't take me a lot of thought to be able to rattle that off. It's very, very simple. I'm Dante St. James. My business is Clickstarter. You know how small to medium businesses find it difficult to get traction in promoting and growing their business out to a larger audience. Well, I address that by having 3 different methods that help you to achieve that. First one is do it yourself by following our tools that we've got that are available for free on everything from YouTube to Facebook. Secondly, it's by doing it with you in a coaching situation. And third, as doing it as we show you how to do it and then you go off and do it yourself. Or done for you. So it doesn't take a lot of thought for me to come up with what that repetitive message is. And I really had to refine that. I had to really get an idea of that. And the ways that you figure that out is to, in a process of, my name is, my business is, you know how, where you're positioning what a problem might be that someone needs to solve. I solve that, or I address that by, where you say, this is what I do to actually solve that problem for people. And my ideal audience, my ideal customer is. So that ideal customer is something that we're very, very unaware of mostly as small businesses. We just go, well, this is an idea I have. It's been a dream of mine to start up for years, but we may not necessarily have worked out whether there actually is an audience for what we're doing. Is there a customer for what they're doing? Now, especially if you're like Benjamin was saying before, you're a disruptor, then that can be a little bit hard for you to identify because you're going, well, if I'm a disruptor, do I know that there's an audience out there? Because this, what I'm doing is going to disrupt what other people are already doing. They've got customers, but I don't quite know whether those people are ready to jump across to what I'm going to do and the way I'm going to do it. So you've got a process of education of people. You've got a process of making people aware of what you're doing. And the first step to that is that message that you can easily replicate and repeat again and again and again. Every time you meet someone in a networking function, every time you go to social media, you ask yourself, is this post going to be highlighting what my pitch is? Is it going to be highlighting what my proposition is, like how I fix this problem? Is it highlighting what the problem is and whether someone has that problem? So that repetition, it's boring and you'll get sick of it sometimes. But in the same way that you can look at a business card and you go, this is my business card. It's just got, who I am and it's got my details on it. That's boring. I keep handing that all the time. The same people get the same card all the time because the message is the same on it every time. Who I am, what I do, and what my contact details are. Likewise, when it comes to trying to grow out your business by growing out your customer base, you need that solid, repetitive message. There's a reason why so many people do not change their television ads, their radio ads. They produce the same kind of promotional material. Flyers are the same year after year after year because that repetition is so important for creating a sense of trust. If someone's changing their logo every month, or if someone's changing their logo every month, or they're changing who they're targeting every month, it's hard to trust them because there's no consistency there. So having that repetition, and the question here from Keith, which is saying, is your elevator pitch a synopsis of your mission statement? Yes and no. It's more of an intention statement, I guess. A mission statement would be quite often, this is what I would like to, this is the mission that my business wants to achieve. An elevator pitch is more about, this is the problem I'm going to solve. So it's more geared towards the consumer of your products or services, rather than a mission statement being more of an internal statement to you and your staff and the people who are supporting you of what you want to achieve. Your mission, your elevator, excuse me, your elevator pitch is definitely more about what you project out to the public, because no one cares about a vision statement or a mission statement. They just want to get their problem solved. So the elevator pitch identifies the problem, says that you do it, you fix it, and how you do that, and who you do it for. Great questions, Keith. Keep those questions coming, guys. They're really, really good. And then it's time to share and share alike. So we've got that message. We know how to repeat it. Now we've got to get people to share it. But first, we've got to share it ourselves. So how do we share it? Where do we share it? The first thing is that we share it with the people we know. They're the obvious ones who can amplify that message out to others. So for instance, this morning, I was on a call with another digital marketer who needed some help with their Facebook ads campaign for a particular client. That client sells ecologically friendly laundry products and other sort of plastic-free things. So some of those things were, for instance, soap berries and the wool fabric softener balls you put into your dryer to replace fabric softener, things like the stainless steel pegs and all that. And we were going through all that. And as part of that, she became, excuse me, I've got a really just annoying cough that's popped up this morning. She was able to then be an advocate for those products to me, who I was there to help her to organize that. But because I'm a step out from, so there's the core, remember, of the person who owns the site. There's the people who know her, in the case that's her digital marketer. And then I'm the next level out. I'm the one who knows the digital marketer, who knows the person. So just by introducing you to this product, I went and bought some soap berries and I bought some wool balls for my dryer because I was curious to go, yep, that's the sort of thing I would like to do. I became a customer because I was advocated to by the person who works with them. So to get that kind of sharing is you make it really easy for people to share your stuff. And by doing that, think about in terms of people like, or like online characters like Naz Daly, if you've ever come across him, Jay Shetty, another one, Simon Sinek, and then accounts such as The Dodo, which shares a lot of stories about animals being rescued and rehomed and that sort of thing. Those kind of things make it very, very easy to tag and share people on social media specifically. So then you have to look at, well, what am I doing that makes it easy for the people who know me to share what I do? Am I creating material on my social media that's easily shareable? Am I creating things that are interesting? Or am I just producing things of go to my website and buy my stuff? here's the beautiful thing I've designed, go and buy it here. Or if I design some really shareable video that, for instance, introduces people to a concept that is, to quote Benjamin earlier, as is a disruptive thing. Here's a thing that's being disrupted. Imagine if there was a way to get fabric softener into your dryer without there actually being a liquid chemical fabric softener in there. If that sort of thing is possible, well, it is, and here it is, and here's how it does it. So introducing those concepts in a shareable format that people can go, boom, I'm going to use that. So things like you can create those kind of videos on tools like Canva, for instance, is a very good video editing tool now. Even better than that is things like InVideo or Lumen 5 or Wave Video, which allow you to get templated, viral style and advertising style video templates that you just drop in your pictures and videos and you drop in your words, and then it creates this beautiful, very engaging video that's very easy for people to do. One of my best videos I ever created was facts and figures about this town where I live, which is Darwin. So I was saying this many people live here. Here's the actual, here's the kind of consumers that live here. Here's the age demographic that lives here. Here's the amount that have small businesses. And it was this really, 60-second video that just basically just threw facts about Darwin that business people should know. And that thing was viewed tens of thousands of times, but it took me, 5 minutes to build. I just looked up those facts and figures through obviously the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, thank you, Census, and was able to pull those facts out and put them into a video that was in an attractive enough format that it made people think, wow, I did not know that about the town that I live and work in, or the town that I'm operating a business in. So you then think of, what are the shareable things that you can produce? What are the shareable items that you can create that make it easy for people to share your message with the world? And of course, the one thing we don't want to do is to have to wait. But unfortunately, like Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequel trilogy, thanks to the Star Wars fans out there for recognizing what I'm talking about, it takes patience, young Padawan. It takes time to let these things work. You're not going to get an instant response for that. I did not get tens of thousands of views on that video from the first day. It didn't even happen in the first week. It happened over a 9-month period in 2019. So it took ages to work. I put this idea out there, thought it looked really cool, didn't really get much. And then I woke up 9 months later and looked at it and went, 47,000 views. How in the heck did that happen? And it's just because it takes time for these things to be shared. The viral effect isn't always fast. Sometimes the viral effect takes a little bit longer to get there, but that viral effect then got the right attention from the right people who came in back through the originating person who made that, the company that was mentioned in the logo at the end of the video, and they found me, they found my services, and those 47,000 views, I probably made about 36 to 38 different customers that came through that, which over a 2-year period has been great. 36 to 38 customers. Imagine what impact 36 to 38 customers would have on your business, extra customers coming in. It'd make a bit of a difference, wouldn't it? So the key takeaway from this part is, in order for your early marketing to ever work, you unfortunately, and I have to be really open and honest with this, have to stick to it to about 6 to 12 months before you see any kind of meaningful results. The 30-day thing is a pipe dream, and it's very few people who will actually have this happen in 30 days. You may be lucky enough to go viral, but then going viral is not really a strategy. Going viral is something that happens to a few people here and there. It's very, very few people. Say one thing goes viral a day, there's only 365 things going viral a year, and there's 17 million advertisers on Facebook. So a whole lot of those advertisers are not going viral. You really have to stick to it and realize that these things happen incrementally, not in giant leaps. The incremental growth is the Warren Buffett kind of growth is the growth you want to get, where it grows gradually and compounds and gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. The beauty of that is too, that when you grow it like that, then you're also able to then predict your growth much more carefully. The reality is that you and I don't want to go viral, because I do not have the capacity for 2 million more customers of my services. And I cannot scale up to get that in a hurry. If you're selling gift cards, as I think Riona is. And if you're selling, yoga services and all that, you cannot possibly take on 1 million new customers. So going viral is mostly useless for the products and services that end up going viral. Now, particular products that go viral tend to be fast-moving consumer goods, where they've got warehouses in China full of that product that can be very quickly and easily shipped out. But if you go through a regular growth pattern, which is incremental growth as you go through the cycle of 6 to 12 months, if you stop that sooner than that, you're guaranteeing the process is going to fail. So you have to be committed to doing this thing for at least, I would say 12 months. It's actually becoming a little bit slower now because these platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, all those platforms are becoming busier and busier. When we first started out on Facebook ads, there was less than maybe 200 advertisers in Australia in 2008. There's now 1.7 million advertisers in Australia. So it's got real crowded out there, really noisy out there. So you kind of have to be all in or you're all out, one or the other. It's pretty simple. You've got to commit to it for a longer term. Now, if that means then you don't have the budget to work with, that's okay. There's other ways of working. It doesn't mean pumping money into paid advertising. It does mean, though, pumping at least time into developing your marketing. So now we come to the point of, if we're going to go into battle and we're going to grow this thing and go to war and all these, very, very hyper masculine ways of looking at how you approach business, well, you've got to choose your weapon. Now, the channels for achieving that growth are things like email newsletters, social media, organic social media, and paid advertising. Now, with your newsletters, these are if you want to keep your early efforts of growing your business a little bit on the down low. So you don't want to do what I did, is come bursting into your marketplace with loud trumpets and saying, I'm doing this for 90% less than anyone else in the market. What I did was created too much attention. And of course, all the other competitors in the market adjusted their prices to compensate a bit for that. But they, if I had have just quietly gone about it, I could have grown at a much more sustainable level instead of overwhelming myself in my first year and making lots of mistakes and losing lots of clients because they didn't get a satisfactory service. So if you want to keep those early efforts, and I'm just sort of rolling this thing out gently and sort of gently and just a little bit more carefully. I don't want to sort of create too much of a boat rocking experience because I want people to see the success of what I'm doing without necessarily me yelling and screaming about how good I am and then letting them down. It helps you to create a very small focus group of early customers. These are like your early adopters. Imagine a gym opening up in your suburb. That gym will usually have what they call foundation members. So as they're building the gym, they haven't opened yet, they are inviting people in for what they will call a grandfathered price. So it could be, if their regular cost is $15 a week or $30 a month, they will do it for a grandfathered price for those early adopters of $7.50 a week for as long as they are members. And this allows them to have a very focused, very early group of early adopters and early customers. Oh, this is getting terrible today. All the talking's making it worse, hey? And it's very, very good for testing the waters. So you've got a very focused group of people who are probably big fans of what you do, but they are contacted by email. They're not contacted by social media. You're not doing a great big public thing to grow yourself fast. You're doing slow growth. The people who are more likely to pick up those emails from you. This is really good for sharing a story. It's really good for sharing updates. We're 2 weeks away from opening. We're 1 week away from opening. Our first classes start tomorrow. Have you booked yours yet? The other thing is that it's free. Email marketing is by and large free. You can use a free version of MailChimp to get it on. You can do exactly the kind of the kind of promotion you want to that group of people without it costing you any money. The downside is, of course, you might not have very many email addresses to work with to start with. So this is where you have your friends and family will automatically be on your email list because they may not need what you know of what you're doing, but they'll know people who do. And so that email is a very easy way for them to go, here we are, I'm going to pass this email on. I'm going to forward this email on to the people that I know who may be interested. Oh, I know Carla. She was talking about joining a gym. I'll pass on that email address to Carla because I know that she was looking for a gym and here's an opportunity for her to get that cheaper. So we all know people who have interests that are outside of what they do already. So they might be, an office worker, but they go to the gym. They may be a manual laborer, but they also go to a church choir, for instance. Those are different things they do. You take in, like William's saying, take in vitamin C as much as you can. So yeah, thank you for that. I definitely need that to, I've been dosing on the vitamin C very, very much. So hopefully I can get rid of this nasty little tickly throat cough. With this particular group of people, what you're looking for, I guess, is that you're looking for the people who are not necessarily your early adopters only, but they're also the people who have access to other people who can be your early adopters. Social media, on the other hand, allows you to quickly reach a big network of people if you do it in a good way, or you're lucky enough to go, that kind of early kind of viral. It's really good for asking questions. And this is what I think early stage startups, if any of you are in this position, if you're still very much early in your journey of a small business, it's great for asking questions and refining who the kind of person is your product appeals to. You may not have worked that all out. If you didn't go in with a business plan to start with, and you haven't got your customer avatar that you go, this is the kind of person, exactly down to the age group, the gender, the location, the geographical details, the demographic information about that person, you haven't defined that kind of stuff yet, this is a great way of getting it. You can ask questions on social media that creates a bit of a conversation. And through that conversation, you can learn a lot more about the customer. And then by and large, social media is free. But yes, I agree, it is very, very hard to get that momentum straight away. So it's going to take you a while of consistently approaching the market, consistently inviting people into your page to learn more about what you do and what your services happen to be. Now, the offset of that is you may have a very small social network. That's an opportunity, I guess, for growth, because that small social network knows a lot of people. I might be one person, but I've got 800 people connected to me. So that means I'm able to amplify a message out if I think that people I know and love could use that service or that product. I quite often will share products which I think are absolutely brilliant. And I've gone and bought them myself and go, you should see this. This is a great thing to do. That can be software. That can be, like I was sharing about the soap balls and the soap nuts and the what they call soap berries, sorry, and the little dryer balls, the wool dryer balls that go in your clothes dryer to give a fabric softening effect as well. I'll share those things very openly because I think they're really valuable to share. And I think, not just that I'm trying to support the business that produce them, but because I believe in the product. And you'll have people in your network, as small as it will be, who actually believe in what you're doing and want to share that out. Hell, I've got like a guy in Adelaide who's a friend of mine who doesn't matter what I do, he shares it. He just believes so much in what I do. He immediately shares it out every time I do something. The other thing about social media is it's not very private. Now, that may not matter to you unless you're in that very, very early stage where your business feels quite vulnerable to people copying you or somehow stealing your idea and replicating it for themselves. So if you want to avoid that kind of thing, social media is probably not the best place for it unless you have a closed group. You have a certain maybe 30 people in there. They hear about your updates and then can manually refer things on to other people. But in most cases, social media is not very private for you if you're operating from a Facebook page, for instance. With the very poor reach that people get on Facebook pages these days, it feels like it might as well be private because not very many people are going to see your post. But as you produce posts that more adequately reflect the things that people need solved in their lives as it relates to your product or your service, then that reach will climb just steadily, a little bit more all the time. That's what I experience is every month, my engagement goes up just a little bit more as I get much closer to what it is that people actually need that I do. But of course, the fastest way to guarantee traffic and to guarantee attention is to pay for it. And that allows you to access all those new customers that are outside of your circle of influence or outside of the people who can amplify it for free for you. It gives you the ability to be able to scale that message out really, really quickly. You've got a lot of control about that. It's like a fire hose. You can turn that fire, not even a fire hose, just a hose in general. You can turn up the pressure and turn down the pressure. If you want to just water a small pot plant, you turn the fire hose, the hose down a bit, so make sure it's just almost like it's a little dribble coming through. If you want to water an entire lawn, you have to put a sprinkler on there that will actually make it go out much, much further to cover a much greater area all at one time and have it at the maximum level of pressure. That's, I guess, the difference between the fire hose of organic posting on things like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Pinterest and all the other networks, and paying to get that traffic. One's a dribble, like a drip filter that goes through into one single desert rose like I've got on my balcony, or you've got the sprinkler that covers the entire front lawn and doesn't require you to water individual sections. You just put on one sprinkler at the absolute maximum you can and off it goes. Not that I think anyone uses sprinklers these days. I don't see a lot of sprinklers going on in many places. The offset of this, of course, is that it costs money. There's going to be a cost that comes with doing this kind of thing. And depending on how big your target audience is, or if you haven't really defined who your best target audience is, it's going to cost you a bit of money. And there's, of course, no guarantee that the traffic you're targeting will necessarily be helpful in growing your audience, particularly if you haven't done that early work of identifying who is my person, who are the people who are going to need this, where are they, what are they doing, what are the problems they're having, and how can I address those in what I'm writing, what I'm producing in ads, what I'm producing in organic posts, what I've got on my website. You can do processes like the story brand assessment that I often do through the ASBAS Digital Solutions program that allows you to identify what those problems are that people are having and how you can customize your website, for instance, on how to address those issues straight away the minute they hit that website. But once you get to this paid traffic area, I'd say the best thing to use paid traffic for, the best way to use things like Facebook ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Pinterest ads, any ads at all, would be to use it as an amplifier for the things that are already working for you in the organic way. So if there's a post which happens, so for instance, my post, for instance, I was telling you about that video that I made a couple of years ago, it got 47,000 views. That would be the best possible ad that I can put out there because it's already successful. It's already got some success, and I want to amplify that success out to 14 million people as opposed to 47,000. If that's what I was looking to do. Unfortunately, most of us, when we go into advertising, we're trying to ram a message down people's throat that hasn't worked. If it doesn't work in any sort of way, shape, or form as a simple message, as a post, or as a content of your website or a content of your email list, then you're trying to jam a message down people's throats that people don't want to hear. And the unfortunate side effect of that is on TV and radio, you can continue jamming that message down people's throat, a la Harvey Norman or Joyce Main or those kind of retailers that are jamming those messages constantly down our throats, whether we want to hear it or not. On social media and digital platforms like Google and Facebook, jamming that message down doesn't actually work because the process of how a social media network and a search platform like Google works with is that if you're paying $200 a day to put a message in front of people and nobody is responding to that, that platform will pull it back. Throwing more money at it is not actually they won't be able to spend your money simply because that money is just being thrown at something that nobody wants to see. So it then changes your whole approach to the way you would use paid ads, because you want to pull it back and go, well, instead of trying to jam a message down people's throats, maybe what I really need to do is reconsider the message I'm putting out there. Yes, it may be the fastest way to guarantee traffic. Yes, it may be a great way to access new customers that are outside that circle of influence you already have. Yes, I can scale very quickly. But if it's still not working despite all of that, my message is wrong. It doesn't mean your product's wrong. Doesn't mean your service is wrong. Doesn't mean nobody wants what you're doing, particularly if you're a disruptor, if you're doing something that nobody's ever done before, or you're doing a handmade version of something which people can buy in a shop anywhere. Or if you're doing, I was talking to a client yesterday on one of my government programs I work on, and she's hand making these sort of meditation cushions. These things are big, like about a meter in diameter, right? They're absolutely huge things you sit on, and they cost hundreds of dollars. You can get a cheaper version of that for $20 at Kmart, but it won't be her version. It won't be the ones that look as good as hers look. It won't be the quality of build. It's going to be $20 worth from Kmart, like in the last 6 months, if that. So you're getting what you pay for in that. So in her particular thing that's going out there, which is trying to convince people to spend $400 on something they can usually get for $20, she has to find different ways of putting that message across. So that's not just in the paid stuff. It's in her email newsletter, is highlighting what's so great about it. Why would you want to spend $400 on this? It's also in your social media, highlighting the difference between this product and the $20 thing from Kmart. It's also then in your ads, highlighting the difference between this and the $20 thing from Kmart. And you might go, well, I don't want to talk about the $21 thing at Kmart because they'll go and buy that instead. Well, they were already going to go and buy that. They were never going to buy your $300 thing. And this is where you get to a point where that patience thing happens. You have to develop that patience over time to understand that not everyone wants to be your customer, and not everyone will be your customer. My approach to digital marketing as a digital marketer myself is not for everyone. Not everyone wants to take time. People largely come in, and for every client that I take on, there's 2 that I don't, because they want that very quick response. I've only got $50 a month to work with. And I'm like, well, my fee is going to be more than $50 a month. So we definitely can't do much with that. So I have to let that go. I'd love to be able to help them, but the reality is they've got unrealistic expectations of how much paid traffic actually costs. Facebook have kind of, given us an unrealistic picture of what it costs, because they've given us the ability to boost the post for $10. Now, the boosted posts, I don't know if anyone's done those in here, but they by and large do sweet nothing. They do very, very little at all. They $10 for a boosted post. We'll be lucky to get even in front of the right person, let alone get to someone who's going to buy your particular product or service, because there's no guarantee that your targeted traffic is going to be all that helpful. So when it comes to newsletters are those things that allow you to much more thoroughly explain what you want to do, what you want to sell, how you want to sell, and then offer upsells. The beauty about newsletters too is that they allow you to segment your database. And that simply means you've got different lists in your newsletter. So you might be using MailChimp. List number 1 is people who've never bought anything from you, but they're interested in your product. Newsletter number 2, people who bought one product from you, and they're quite likely to buy a new product. Newsletter list number 3 could be people who have bought multiple things for you, and they're your high, what I call a lifetime value client. They're people who have bought lots of things from you before, and they're pretty likely to buy things from you again. So when you've got those 3 different things in there, you've segmented your database into 3 very specific kinds of customer. You can then customize your message to go out to those specific people. Number 1, the people who've never bought anything from you, you can continue to educate them on the benefits of what you produce. Number 2, the people who bought from you once, you've got the opportunity to highlight that these are the things that if you bought this is a great thing to add to it. If you bought these soap berries, it'd be great for you to buy the woolen dryer balls. If you bought the stainless steel pegs, you'd be really, really interested in this other thing that we do, which is like a laundry soap that's made out of natural ingredients. So then you can upsell or cross-sell to other products. For the person in the list number 3 who has bought lots of stuff from you in the past, you're able to then give them more ideas about how to make better use of the things they've bought, and remind them that they're probably running out, those soap berries that they've been using, they're probably run out now. They need to order some more. You're reminding people that, hey, you haven't bought from us in a while. Do you need a top up? We've got a top up over here. And by the way, because you're a previous customer, make sure you log in, because you'll automatically get a 10% discount with this discount code. So that ability of newsletters to be able to send very different messages out to very different people becomes a really important factor in being able to reach lots of different types of potential customer. So you can, those people who never bought from you before, they get a message that's suitable for them. But the people who bought from you before get a very different message again that's very, very geared towards their part of the journey towards you. When it comes to social media, I've got so many things to say about social media, because I've got so much exposure to it. I'm in the Facebook world very deeply, in the Instagram world, now very, very much in the LinkedIn world. Just got my LinkedIn ads certification last night. So these are things that I've got a lot of insider knowledge about. But what it really does come down to is that social media is an amplifier. It's not a place it's not a place necessarily that's geared towards people converting to a sale straight away. It's a place to introduce people to a disruptive concept. So I mentioned Benjamin again because you've got that again, but the difficulty of acquiring customers as a disruptor, social media is the perfect place to introduce disruptive concepts. So if you're doing something that no one's ever done before, then you have an opportunity through social media to introduce that concept for the very first time. You've got that opportunity to inspire people to think different. And this is what all these disruptive concepts come up with. Uber Eats, even using apps for things like online shopping. At some point in the last 12 months, I went from shopping primarily online through eBay to shopping primarily online through Amazon. And I don't know how that happened. Like for sort of householdy kind of things, electronics and, adapters for computers and, replacement parts for this and that. For some reason, I went from eBay to Amazon and I don't have any idea why I did that and how that happened. But at some point, something disrupted my pattern. Something came in and instead of pointing me to the normal place I would go, it rerouted me to somewhere else. So it could be someone who's going through a change of their diet, for instance. At some point, they were disrupted from what they normally do is go to Macca's every morning and get their double bacon and egg McMuffin meal with a God knows whatever else you can buy at Macca's in the morning. And then they had that disrupted and said, I'm going to make my breakfast at home this morning and it's going to be a fruit salad. At some point, that disruption occurred, and social media is the place to be putting through a disruption, because a disruption to the normal pattern of things has to happen in a place where you can reach lots of people or where things can be shared. I still remember the first time I heard about Uber, and I first heard that there was this thing which made me not have to have that awkward, paying for a cab ride afterwards and not paying to be in a smelly cab and someone who was going to try and cheat me out of driving a long way around to get a bigger fare. And I had so many terrible experiences with taxi drivers. This alternative came up. I was like, oh my goodness, I can just order it and pay for it without the awkwardness of the paying. And then the driver who grunts at you because he wants the cash. He doesn't want to put it through the system and all those frictions that come with things. And here was this system that cut through all the friction and made it a much more pleasant experience for me. It was life-changing for me. And I think I've caught maybe 2 cabs in the last 5 years because that thing disrupted what I normally would do is get to an airport and get in a cab. What I've done instead is get to an airport, book an Uber, and I meet them at the pickup area and off I go. Do I have to wait longer than a cab? Yeah. Is it going to cost more than a cab? Sometimes it does. But does it give me a better experience that's more frictionless? Yes. But at some point, something had to jump in and disrupt me. And that would have been an invitation to join it from a friend. So that's something which didn't cost them any money. It was just like, forward this code onto a friend and they'll get their first ride free. I got my first ride free and I've never looked back. So the same thing is that you may not be a multinational, international, billion-dollar company. You're probably just producing your own little thing or doing your own little service in your own little town or your own little city or your kind of Perth or Brisbane or Darwin or Alice Springs or wherever you happen to be. So social media still works for you because you can put in something that is disruptive. Instead of going to Kmart to buy a birthday card, go to this site because it's really personalized and it's really beautiful. You just need a bit of a lead time to do it. Once you do it once, you may never have to go back again. There's certain things in my life, and I know there will be in yours, that are never going to go back to normal. I do not shop at Woolworths or Coles in their stores. I just hate going to supermarkets. So 3 years ago, I was disrupted into the particular area I lived in at the time, was here actually in Darwin, came online for online delivery. So man, I shop for that thing online. I don't have to walk inside a Coles or a Woolworths and I do not miss it at all. If I don't have to go to a shop for certain things that I don't need straight away, that is brilliant. I just order it ahead. I've never gone back to shopping in person at those places. But when it comes to shopping for something special, something thoughtful, you may still do that. But what you want to do as new businesses, as small businesses, is to be able to disrupt the normal pattern flow of people going through their lives. If they go through their lives and they buy the same thing every single week, and you've got something which is different to that, you've got to break their habits. But to break their habits, you've got to get in front of them. And social media is probably the best way to do that, the instant way to do it. The other way is, of course, about getting into newsletters, email addresses, getting your friends to share what it is you've done. But when it comes to paid traffic, which is where you're going to amplify it even further out to people, just be aware that the further you want that message to go, the more it's going to cost you. You're not going to get a $10 boost to get you customers all around Australia. It's going to cost you a lot more than that. You have to use a bit more strategy, what we call sales funnels. It's going to cost you a starting point, $350 a month just on ad spend. I'll admit to you now, my ad spend on Facebook every month for my own business is $1,700 a month. Now that seems ridiculous. And you go, oh my God, you have to make so many customers to make that $1,700 a month to pay. But that $1,700 a month gives me an ad return on investment about 3 times. So I get $3 back for every dollar I spend in a month for that particular spend. So it gives you an idea of the kind of numbers then you're starting to pull in these different kinds of businesses. So thinking in terms of return on ad spend and what you can legitimately think that you can draw in to supporting your business, $10 is only going to get you maybe $30 return. If you go for a $100 spend, that could give you a $1,000 return. So if you're only spending $10 and you want to get a 3 times ad spend return, it's really only getting you $30. It's barely worth you even bothering to do the advertising in the first place. That's the thing about advertising. It doesn't matter whether it's television, radio, print, billboards, backs of buses, or in social media. It's still going to cost you money, and you need to spend a sufficient amount of money to make use of that platform. TikTok, when they came into the market with advertising over the last year, when they set up their office in Sydney and started to go, okay, you can now advertise on TikTok within Australia, they set a minimum. You cannot advertise on TikTok as a paid promotion for less than, get this right, $3,000 a month. That's the beginning. I can't afford to advertise. Well, I probably could afford it, but I don't think it'd give me much of a return, is to pay $3,000 a month to be on an advertising platform. Now, Facebook, obviously, and Instagram, it's a lot less than that. Even Google is a lot less than that. But if you're trying to reach a national audience, your $10 boost and your $30 boost and your $50 a month strategy isn't going to do anything for you. And that's why you're probably going, well, I put all this money into Facebook, it's not working. It's because now it's a big platform with 20 million people in Australia on it. The vast majority of Australians are on the Facebook family of apps. So it's going to cost you a bit to reach those kinds of people, especially if you're trying to disrupt them and force them down a path that they're not necessarily prepared to go down. So what's next with all this? Well, hopefully you still got some hours left in your ASBAS Digital Solutions thing before it ends at the end of the month. If you didn't know it's ending before the end of the month, hopefully you're able to get those one-to-ones in there. Now, I've still got some availability. I've got my record month this month. I've got 82 one-to-one consultations this month. I'm getting off this call and immediately going into the next one. So it's very, very busy. And I've got a little bit of availability left if you'd like to take advantage of that. I think they're $66 for most people, or if you've only had one before, it might be $44. Feel free to use that with myself. There's some other very good marketing people who are part of this. Sarah Thompson in Perth, Kazia McNaught in Perth, Tracy Sheen in Brisbane. I'm trying to think if Andrea Anderson is still part of it in Brisbane, in Logan. I don't know if she is. All excellent people when it comes to marketing. Liam Fahey, he's based in Rockhampton, but serves pretty much all of Queensland. These are brilliant people who are able to give you some really good direction on how to get yourself in a position where you can grow that incremental growth in a realistic fashion without going, I'm going to go viral. And then you find it falls flat because nobody's really interested in what you're trying to say in your potentially viral thing. So thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. Hopefully this has given you some direction, or at least a little bit of a head start on where to go, because I know that this whole world of marketing and customer acquisition and growth can be really confusing. I hope I've given you a little bit of a reality check in there. Please do reach out if you want to, dante@treaty.com.au. Stalk me on Facebook, stalk me on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. And I'm really willing to have a chat if you'd like to have a chat about those things. But hopefully, with lots more a month left and a lot more of these webinars, I will see you in the next one.